Did you know that a country smaller than New Jersey, with barely 9 million people, has more companies on NASDAQ than all of Europe combined? Or that despite spending over 6% of its GDP on defense, one of the highest rate globally, Israel maintains a per capita income rivaling Germany and Japan. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most paradoxical economies in the world, Israel. How does a nation born in conflict with limited natural resources and geographic isolation become what we call the startup nation? And more importantly, what economic challenges it is facing right now that could reshape its entire future? Let's break it down. Israel's economic story is unusual from the start. Founded in 1948, the country began with massive waves of immigration, hostile neighbors, and virtually no natural resources. No oil, limited water, barely any arable land. Fast forward to today. Israel's GDP is approximately $610 billion. Its GDP per capita sits at around $60,000, higher than Germany or France. It is a member of the OECD, the Club of Developed Economies, and exports everything from cutting edge cybersecurity software to agricultural technology. So, why does this matter to you? Because Israel's economy is a case study in innovation under constraint, defense economies, and what happens when a small open economy operates in geopolitical uncertainty. Whether you are studying development economics, tech policy, or international trade, Israel's offer lessons, both inspiring and cautionary, about resilience, inequality, and long term sustainability. Let's explore the four pillars that define Israel's economy today. Let's start with what Israel is famous for: innovation. Israel invests about 6.3% of its GDP in R&D, the highest rate in the world. To put that in perspective, the US invests around 3.4% and the global average is closer to 2%. But here is what's interesting from an economic standpoint. This isn't just government spending. Israel has cultivated a unique ecosystem where public investment, private venture capital, and military technology transfer all intersect. The Unit 8200, Israel's elite intelligence tech unit, has become a talent pipeline for cybersecurity startups. Graduates leave the military with cutting edge skills and often start companies that attract global venture capital. The result? Over 10,000 active startups in a country of 9 million. Companies like Waze, Mobileye, and Wix are born here. In 2021 alone, Israeli tech companies raised over $25 billion in funding. Now, here is the economic concept. This is what we call knowledge spillovers. When innovation in one sector creates benefits across the entire economy. But there is a flip side. When your economy is this concentrated in high tech, you create a dual economy, a small, highly paid tech elite and everyone else. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about defense spending because you can't understand Israel's economy without it. Israel spends roughly 8.8% of GDP on defense. For comparison, most NATO countries spend around 2%. That's money that could go to healthcare, education, or infrastructure. But here is where it gets economically complex. Defense spending in Israel isn't purely a cost, it's also an investment. Israeli defense forces act as a massive training ground for engineers, programmers, and managers. The technology developed for defense, drones, sensors, communication system often get commercialized. This is what economists call dual-use technology, innovation that serves both military and civilian purposes. Israel Aerospace Industries, Rafael, and Elbit Systems are defense contractors, yes, but they also export civilian tech globally. In 2024, Israel's defense exports reached around $14.7 billion. But here is a trade off question: is this sustainable? Can small economies continue to allocate such a high proportion of resources to defense without crowding out other sectors? And what happens when geopolitical tension rise? Do investors pull back? Now, here is a question for you. What do you think? Should countries with high defense needs treat military R&D as an economic asset or purely as a security cost? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now let's address the elephant in the room, inequality. Israel has one of the highest poverty rates among OECD countries, around 20% as of recent reports. That's higher than the US or most of Europe. And the Gini coefficient, a measure of income inequality, is also above the OECD average. Why? Part of it goes back to that dual economy we mentioned. High tech accounts for about 17% of GDP and 56% of exports, but employs only around 11% of the workforce. If you are in tech, your salary might be 3 or 4 times the national median. If you are not, you are often in low wage service jobs. There is also a demographic dimension. Israel has two rapidly growing populations, the ultra-Orthodox community and the Arab Israeli population. Both face barriers to full economic participation, whether cultural, educational, or structural. Ultra Orthodox men often prioritize religious study over work, and labor force participation among Arab Israeli women is significantly lower than the national average. From an economic perspective, this is a problem of human capital underutilization. You have large segment of the population not contributing to or benefiting from economic growth. Long term, that threatens physical sustainability, especially as these groups grow as a share of the population. Finally, let's talk about something every Israeli feels, the cost of living. Israel consistently ranks as one of the most expensive countries in the OECD. According to OECD purchasing power data, consumer prices, especially for housing and food, are extremely high relative to income. Why? Several reasons. First, land scarcity. Israel is small and much of its land is either desert or restricted for security or agriculture purposes. High demand, limited supply, classic economics. Second, market concentration. A few large conglomerates dominate key sectors food, telecom, banking. When markets are not competitive, prices stay high. Israel has made reforms here, but progress is slow. Third, import tariffs and regulations. Israel protect certain industries which keep domestic prices high. For example, protections on dairy and poultry keep local producers in businesses but also inflate consumer costs. The result, even with relatively high incomes, many Israelis feel financially squeezed. In 2011, massive protests erupted over housing and living costs, a reminder that economic performance is not just about GDP growth. It's about whether people feel prosperity in their daily lives. This ties into broader economic concept, real wages versus nominal wages. You might earn a high salary on paper, but if everything costs more, your actual purchasing power might not be much better than someone in a cheaper country earning less. So where does this leave us? Israel's economy is a study in contrast. On one hand, it's a high income, innovation driven economy that punches far above its weight in global tech and exports. It has world class universities, a strong entrepreneurial culture, and a proven ability to adapt under pressure. On the other hand, it faces deep structural challenges, rising inequality, an underutilized workforce, high living costs, and the ever present burden of defense spending. And all of this unfold in a region where geopolitical risk is constant, affecting investment, trade, and long-term planning. Here is a big question for economists and policymakers. Can innovation alone sustain an economy if large parts of the population are left behind? Israel's next decade will likely be defined by how it answers that question. Whether it can broaden prosperity, integrate underrepresented groups into the economy, and reduce the cost of living without sacrificing its competitive edge. And here is a global lesson. Israel shows us that economic success is not just about growth rate or tech exports. It's about distribution, inclusion, and whether an economy works for everyone, not just the top 10%. Do you think Israel's startup nation model could work in your country? What would need to change? Let me know in the comments. If you found this breakdown useful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We cover economics, policy, and global trends every week. Next time, we might dive into the economics of another unexpected country. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next one.